Hi guys, today I'm going to be reviewing Seberg. This is Kristen Stewart's most recent Amazon original. It just came out on Amazon Prime, but it actually was released in the theaters in December of 2019. I was excited to see this. This is a biodrama based on the American actress Jean Seberg, who is famous. She was internationally famous for her work in the 1960s film school classic Breathless by Jean-Luc Godard, which was kind of the film that brought in what is called the French New Wave in cinema, known for a very creative new way of editing with jump cuts and everything. But it's interesting. I didn't know too much about this character before, so I was kind of going in a little bit blind, although I did know of her work in Breathless, of course. It's nice to see Kristen Stewart with a little bit extra to work with in this. The cast is pretty solid throughout. She's got Anthony Mackie, who plays the civil rights activist Hakeem Jamal, and also Jack O'Connell, who is an FBI agent teamed up with Vince Vaughn, and her agent is actually Stephen Root. So it's actually kind of fun to see Vince Vaughn and Stephen Root in a movie, because the last movie they had done together was Dodgeball, where Stephen Root was telling them that if you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball. So this is a completely different tone than that. Anyway, we are introduced to Kristen Stewart playing Jean Seberg, and she's now living in Paris, and she's beginning to come back to the United States to start her career back in the United States and see if she can get some more Hollywood work after hitting it so big in French cinema. And she's beginning to come back and looking at doing a musical, so she seems a little apprehensive about coming back to the United States. She is then introduced to Anthony Mackie's character, who is a civil rights activist. He's somewhat involved with the Black Panther movement, but kind of on his own movement. And she, I guess, well, as we are introduced to her, I kind of guess that she has some sort of political background, that she's a bit of an activist. But very shortly, she gets involved with this Black Panther movement, and she takes a photo op immediately with Anthony Mackie's character, with putting up the fists for the Black Power or Black Panther sign. And she's kind of immediately put on the radar of the FBI. Now, this is 1960s Hoover's FBI, who is crossing all sorts of boundaries. And so this is kind of where this film is pegged as a bit of a thriller, a noirish thriller is how Amazon put it. So a biodrama noirish thriller. Now, I'm a huge fan of noirish thrillers, and so we get to see some of that intrigue with the FBI. And the character of the FBI, I have to say that Jack O'Connell, I was not really too familiar with his work, but this is a really terrific young actor here. He kind of actually stood out even in the midst of some really good performances throughout this whole thing. This film is directed by Benedict Andrews, who I had not really seen any of his previous films. Seems to come from a theater background, as two of his credits on IMDb are National Theater Live's version of A Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, and also A Streetcar Named Desire. So we can kind of see that this is, coming from the theater background, and we're going to get a really solid drama. And some of the billing, and even including the trailer, was pegging it as more of a thriller, and it didn't really deliver on those thriller elements. So we had some espionage going on with the FBI. But the long story short on this is that essentially Jean Seberg kind of begins to cross paths with the FBI, who now gets involved in her life and goes so far as to begin to actively try to lower her status in the Hollywood realm, because they didn't want to have someone who's involved in civil rights movements essentially being put in a good light as a Hollywood actress. So they were trying to fight the culture in this. So it's quite a stirring time in terms of the whole politics of the story. But leaving that aside, just kind of looking at the film just from the basis of her character in interplay with the Jack O'Connell character of the FBI. These are the kind of driving forces of this film. So in watching this, I felt a little disappointed that I didn't really get the sense of I knew where she was coming from. We kind of see her jump into the political spectrum of this, and she seems to be wanting to, play a bigger part. And those are words that she says, that she wants to be more active than just being an actress and just entertaining people. But immediately she kind of goes into having an affair with Anthony Mackie. Now, so she has a French husband, and maybe that's okay, but Anthony Mackie has I believe he's got a wife, or at least he's got this girlfriend, and they end up kind of having their relationship fall apart. No, it is his wife, so he's married as well. So two marriages fall apart on this because she has an affair, and it didn't really necessarily seem like she was totally motivated to get involved in the civil rights movement. It seemed like she was more just trying to get together with Anthony Mackie, which, it doesn't actually have a very large driving point in the plot of this. And then Jack O'Connell's character is an FBI agent. He's young, he's recently married, he seems somewhat idealistic, and now all of a sudden he's put on this case of following around Gene Seberg and kind of crossing a lot of boundaries that go a little bit beyond what he's comfortable with. So I'm not going to give spoilers on this, but it is a biodrama, so if you know anything about our life, you might already know what happens. But essentially, I did find this movie to have some really solid moments. The cinematography was really solid throughout. The acting was quite good, and that makes a little bit of sense kind of with the director coming from such a theater background. But overall, I just felt like the structure of the actual screenplay, like the physics of the story, was a little bit weak in terms of not really understanding why she was getting involved in this and what was her initial motivation. We can see her obviously go through a lot of pain as her life is, ruined by the FBI, and we can relate to that. But it was actually a little bit kind of less engaging because I didn't really kind of know too much about this character. The Jack O'Connell character, you could kind of see a little bit about him. He was really struggling with the kind of moral implications of spying on her, and at some point it seemed like he was kind of getting more, kind of sympathetic towards her, and he was even beginning to have problems a little bit with his wife at his house. So overall, there was a little bit of an intrigue here. I felt like the film just kind of moved along. Like I said, the performances were really good, but for some reason it was less impactful than I really hoped for. So I would give this a C+. It certainly has some really good elements, but overall, I don't think it came together to really be like a gripping, compelling drama. So, C+ is my rating for Seberg. Solid work throughout, but I think it just could have been a little bit better if they just kind of maybe connected things a little bit more. But overall, I would give it a pretty good recommendation. All right, I'll be coming with more reviews really shortly. Thanks a lot.